This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to your Thursday the 23rd of November bulletin for the Scottish Football Daily News Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. Just looking through the news at what has happened today. Not a great deal of news making the headlines, but as always, there's always a couple of things that jump out. We'll start with Scotland's under-23 women's squad has been announced for their friendly against the Netherlands in Murcia on Friday, the 1st of November. I'll just go through it just now. Ailey Adams, Rachel Brown, Jasmine Bull, Colette Kavanagh, Erin Clackers, Chelsea Corney, Lee Eddy, Abby Ferguson, Carly Grassily, Kirsty Howitt, Rachel Johnston, Emma Lawton, Kathleen McGovern, Jodie McCleary, Amy Muir, Charlotte Newsham. We also have there Jenny Smith and Kenzie Weir. Again, obviously, this will be a good opportunity for some of those players to get into the habit. 3 Rangers players been called up. I think there's 3 Celtic players there as well. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing for them. One thing that jumps out at you though is first, I think that's the first cap. I think it's 2 Sheffield United players, and the 2 Sheffield United players will also have a Bristol City player, and the rest are all SWPL players, which is marvellous for them. So that is a big occasion. It's Kirsty McLean, not Kirsty Howitt. Sorry, it's been a mistake on the Kirsty Howitt's 26, so I doubt that she'll be playing in the under-23s. But yeah, it'll be a big occasion for those players to be involved in a friendly in Spain. On to some transfer news. Now, you can take this with a pinch of salt or not, but it's worth talking about. Rangers are understood to be interested in a return for Ryan Kent. Now, there's nothing concrete from the club or anything like that, or any kind of serious media outlets in the Rangers scene, but it's coming from a few avenues that Rangers are understood to be entering loan negotiations for a return for Ryan Kent. The one stumbling block with this would be he's on about £30,000 a week, which for a loan player I think would be a bit excessive. But the problem with this is, and I am of the strong opinion of this, Rangers, there was a reason why Ryan Kent was let go. He didn't want to re-sign a new contract. He obviously hasn't. If he's available for loan, then there's not a lot really you can say. He's obviously not been firing at Fenerbahce. I haven't kept up too much up to date with him, but is he what Rangers need? I said in the summer, I was very much of the opinion as Rangers need somebody with a lot higher numbers coming from that area. Now, what you don't do is what Michael Beale did, is let him go and then don't replace him at all in that position, and then you're left in a position where you don't have a left winger. And Ravi Matondo obviously took that before he got injured, but I would not be overly keen on this if it was up to me. I think it's better off being left in the past, because if he comes in and does really well, which he could, I mean, Ryan Kent is a superb football player, but he just hasn't been at the races for the past couple of years for Rangers. So I would be very much of the opinion, leave this one, try and get somebody else in, whether it's a loan or whether Rangers need to go out. Rangers do need a wing on in January. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I think it should be a player who gives you more in terms of numbers. Ryan Kent's numbers have never been what Rangers need. For example, across the city, Lewis Palmer, who Rangers were interested in, is already, I think, on average, putting in better numbers than Ryan Kent did during his spell at Rangers. So I would be of the opinion that Ryan Kent should not be a Rangers player in January. I seriously doubt it will happen anyway, but if it did, then I would say I'm very much against that. Next bit of news, Hearts are understood to be looking for a new right-back. This is following the news that the injuries to Nathaniel Atkinson and Ode Afoa are said to be serious. So they need a right-back as cover. Barry Anderson in the Edinburgh News has said that they are looking at reinforcements in January. Nathaniel Atkinson obviously recovering from an ankle injury, and Oda Lafaya, who is on loan from Brighton, has suffered health issues. So Hearts feel a reinforcement in that department is necessary. They're also looking in at bringing in a more attack-minded player to strengthen competition. That is seen as secondary, however, to the need for a right back, and Stephen Naismith is understood to be scouring his options to see what is available. Hearts, yeah, if you've got a position where your first choice for right back is injured and your second one's obviously out with other reasons, then it's essential that you try and bring somebody in. Now, the argument to that is that going to cost money? Can you pick up a really good one for little money? It's very, very difficult. But I think Hearts will be looking at one in the January window. Let's move on to talking about Hibs. Manager Nick Montgomery, this is in Football Scotland. Manager Nick Montgomery is said to be looking to use psychology to bring success to Hibs, as he explained his methods that helped boost Jason Cummins. Montgomery obviously worked with Cummins at Central Coast Mariners before moving on to take the job at Hibs, and he said at this level it's about the small margins, so you have to look at the things that will over time help improve a player's mindset. You have to look at different ways of helping the team succeed. With someone like Jason, there was no doubting his ability. For whatever reason, he had made some bad decisions in his life that affected him and people's opinion of him. The reality is, though, he is a born winner, he's a goal scorer, and if you look throughout his career, he has won stuff, but he knows he has not helped himself. There's no harm in things like this. I mean, sports psychology, it's a great anomaly, is it? You'll have people kind of a younger generation who think anything to try and improve a player's mindset is absolutely a necessity, but also you'll have an old timer who'll be thinking they didn't have that in my day, so do they need it now? Now it's obviously it is very much a double-edged sword, but I mean, I like things like this. I like the likes of Nick Montgomery's coming in and saying, I want to use this. I want to bring in this innovation that wasn't here to begin with. Because when you're at a club, it doesn't matter if it works or not. Trying it, and you might find something that kind of clicks for you. That is the kind of symbol of everything in football. And I think this could be a good thing. I think it's certainly a good idea. So we'll see what happens there. Scottish football chiefs have been urged to ban pyrotechnics and scrap their own displays. Now, this has obviously been something that has generated a lot of talking points over the past few weeks. It's happened in a lot of grounds. It's a problem. It is a safety problem. There's no doubt about that. I remember being at a game years ago, being along with a family member who suffered a real bad reaction to it. And that was about 10, 15 years ago. And I remember then thinking, are these needed now? Obviously, I don't have any issues with like tifos and things like that. They're absolutely fine. There's no harm in that. But when it gets to safety, then like fireworks, for example, I think you're bored when you're getting games kind of suspended and things like that. When you're causing delays and police to get involved, it is a risk. Now it's not. It happens all over the world. So if it's done safe, then I don't see an issue with it. If for example, Scotland against Norway, if there's fireworks going off in the centre circle, then there's nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? It adds to the mystique of it, but it's kind of generating a bit of controversy in terms of Ken Scott, who is head of the Inspectorate for the Sports Ground Safety Authority, made the statement to SPA and SFA and SPFL officials at Monday's summit to tackle antisocial behaviour in and around the grounds. He says that this is an issue. He says this is something. He says a lot of the bigger clubs in England have turned to light shows, and that has been just as effective in terms of building the big match atmospheres. We've obviously seen that at Celtic with the lights. They do that as well. It's something that obviously, if it's deemed to be a massive issue, then the governing bodies need to come together and find a solution, because you don't want to be in this position where fans feel that they've absolutely no way of getting an atmosphere going at a game. So I would be for some kind of changes to this, but I would also be of the opinion that if it's unsafe, then definitely do something about it. Next bit of news: Livingston will not axe their artificial pitch as financial reality makes following Kilmarnock's lead impossible. This was said by Livingston Chief Executive Dave Black. He told the Daily Mail, "There's been no conversation about us going back to grass. If anything, the conversation, providing there is no change with the rule change with SPFL, will more likely be about renewing the current artificial surface when the time comes." Of course, in everybody's world, a fantastic top-end grass pitch would be best. That's what everybody wants. But at our level, what we are doing as a club, we have a certain finance and fan base. I don't think this will be, to the purist like myself, I don't think this will be very good news for us. I don't like them. I don't like artificial pitches. I got a wee bit of a buzz when I heard Kilmarnock were moving to a grass pitch. I get it from a financial point of view, absolutely. I don't see if it's working for them financially, then why, if the rules aren't limiting them to stop it, then why should they change? But it's going to be a debate for years. I mean, I don't know many people who are for artificial pitches in the Premiership. I don't like it, and it's not a nice one as well. There are artificial pitches that are quite well laid and quite watered and things like that. Livingston's isn't. Livingston's is horrible. I would say Livingston's is worse than Kilmarnock. So if it was up to me, I would put a ban on them. I know financially it would be an issue for clubs, but if Kilmarnock are finding a way to do it, then surely there is a way. But right now, I think obviously Livingston aren't going to change their mind anytime soon. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't have artificial pitches in. But that's a debate for another day. Neil Lennon could finally be set for a return to management, this time at international level. He has been without a job, obviously, since he was sacked by Omonia Nicosia a year ago. The former Celtic manager is understood to be in consideration for the managerial role at the Republic of Ireland after the dismissal of former Dunfermline boss Stephen Kenny. Yeah, I mean, Neil Lennon is very much a case now, probably at the right age to go into international management if the opportunity is there. I think the Republic of Ireland job right now is a very difficult job for anybody. Like they are, I mean, Scotland, for example, Scotland are in a far better position than them. Like, I mean, they've got decent young players, but they're nowhere near qualifying for even a 24 team Euros. I mean, I thought they looked bang average against Holland when I watched them last week. So whoever takes that, I mean, you look at some of the names being linked. Roy Keane, favourite. I seriously doubt Roy Keane would take that job. I think he'll be quite happy sitting with Gary Neville and Alex Scott on a podcast every week than taking a job where there'll be massive pressure on Roy Keane to do well there. Lee Carsley, I could understand that. I don't see Neil Lennon. I see Neil Lennon being actually quite a high profile for that. I can see him being probably the exact candidate I would say for that job. But I think Neil Lennon, I think in terms of kind of jobs in Scotland, I would say it's very unlikely that he gets another one. He did well at Heart at Hibs, but it wasn't brilliant. So is he good enough as a manager now? I mean, Celtic, his second Celtic spell, despite winning a treble, it ended in such a disastrous way that he's probably, I mean, he's not going to get a third spell at Celtic, for example. So I would say it's very unlikely that Neil Lennon gets another job in Scottish football. But in terms of doing anything for Sky and potentially being an international manager, that would probably be right up his street. I would say that's interesting and something to keep an eye on. Neil Lennon could possibly be back in management. That'll do us for this episode of Scottish Football Daily News. We'll be back tomorrow for your final briefing of the week before we move into a busy weekend. Tonight we have a new episode of the SM Media Scottish Football Show. I'll be joined by Mitchell Fegans, Samuel Porritt and Daniel McLeod to assess the action in the obviously Scotland European campaign. We're also going to take a look at the SPFL since the start of the season and the kind of 4 leagues. That'll do us for this episode, folks. We'll see you soon. Thanks.